Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Today we are going to talk more about rifle setups. So we previously did a SPR budget build discussion where we went over how I took a very off-the-shelf rifle, turned it into a pretty decent SPR. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to, see the title of this video and go, you can do CQB with any rifle, and that's true. You can do structure clearance work and CQB with any rifle length. That was very well demonstrated throughout the global war on terror by the Marines in Fallujah and in other instances of our armed services. However, I think anybody that's actually done this professionally will tell you that right tool for the right job makes a big difference. So things like barrel length, sometimes things like optic height, those really do lend some advantages to the discussion. So what we're gonna do is go through a couple rifles that I have that are set up specifically to be applied in a CQB-esque structure clearance type of scenario, talk about why I have them set up the way I do, how I have them set up, and then maybe hopefully that'll fill some gaps for you guys as you're building out your own rifles. So let's jump into it. First, we're going to talk about my 11.5-inch build that you guys have seen in a lot of videos, a lot of pictures if you've been following us on Instagram. Originally started off as something I was building to try and mimic a Mark 18, and from there it's kind of evolved into something a little bit different. So this is my 11.5-inch. This is a AR-15 platform, obviously chambered in 5.56. So before I get into all of this, let's just talk about caliber for a second. Now, 5.56 is pretty universal, especially here in the United States. I think it's a great round for its penetration, its availability, its performance. You can obviously choose to chamber your fighting rifle in something different. 300 Blackout is very popular. The point that I want to bring to the discussion, though, is that while you're performing structure clearance, there may be an opportunity where you leave that structure and have to potentially, especially if you're in law enforcement or military, right, take a shot outside of the structure. Somebody, whether it's somebody fleeing or, I mean, that sounds really awful now that I'm saying that out loud, but you may have to fight outside the structure once you work your way through from point A to point B, that you may encounter resistance out to some varying degrees of distance. That's what I'm really getting at. Sounds way less cringy that way. But you may have to shoot at targets that are a greater distance than what a 300 Blackout may be optimal for. So for that reason, I think that we think about it more in terms of a good fighting rifle and less of a CQB rifle versus a Recce rifle versus a sniper rifle or something like that. I think a good fighting rifle is a good fighting rifle built with a specific focus and intention around a very particular discipline. I think that's really where the value comes into it. So this is my 11.5. We're going to talk about this. If you guys saw our very first YouTube video, it's over probably close to like a year and a half old now. We talk about Mark 18s, but I'm going to go through this because there have been some changes. So we're actually going to start at the butt end here and talk about the sling. So I have this retained here. This is like a shock cord retainer sold by T-Rex Arms. I think it's $5 for a pair of them. So you can see here on my B5 Systems Bravo stock, I have one of those with a HuberWorks sling. HuberWorks is a company out of Pennsylvania. They sent this to me. So I've been playing with this for about a month or two now and really liking it so far. On the stock, I do have the cheek riser from Irregular Defense. We'll get into optic setup in a minute, but having the cheek riser as well as the increased surface area on this B5 system stock really makes this more comfortable and more enjoyable for me to shoot, especially if we're talking about acquisition speed being something of critical importance, which it is in any discussion, but especially so in the close distances that we're talking about when we're doing structure clearance work. As we move forward, I do have the sling attached with a QD here on the back. I do prefer QD these days. They can fail, so you kind of need to keep an eye on it, keep them clean. Dirt and grime and things can build up in these over the years, and then the little plunger on them likes to stay stuck. So then they won't come out or they won't lock in. But I do like QD for my slings. And then I do have a Law tactical folder on this. There we go. Okay, do have a Law tactical folder here. And This allows me obviously to fold the stock to the side for a very small profile. So if, you know, for nothing else other than transportation, you can't fire this in a folded position, at least past, you know, more than one round. But I have it on here in case I did need to fold the gun up, if I need to go into a bag or I'm transporting it in a vehicle, something of that nature. It's very quick to deploy that. And from here, you're good to go, okay? Charging handle is the Radiant Arms Raptor. This is probably my favorite charging handle. I know we've tried some, there's some really good ones out there on the market. The Deadlock from Century Manufacturing is a great option with its locking mechanism, if that's something you need, if you get this, if you have a propensity to get this caught on your kit, so that when you go to present the firearm, it gets racked out of battery, then the Deadlock is a great option for you. The upper and lower receiver here are just a standard mil spec. The lower is an Arrow. The upper is actually a Palmetto. That's how this thing started life. Nothing too fancy, too spectacular. As we move into the bolt carrier, this is a bootleg. So it's an adjustable bolt carrier group to help with gassing, so that my ejection is consistent and the system is running nice and reliably here for all sorts of ammo. You know, whether it's 55 grain or 62 grain or 77 grain, whatever I have running through it, it cycles very reliably here. And the buffer system on this is just a regular carbine buffer. Haven't really had to do anything to it, honestly. I did play with buffer weights and things. And then once I got into this bolt carrier group, that was really the secret sauce. Going up from there, the riser, I get questions on this still, even after the last couple of years. This is the Kenu riser, K-E-N-U, from Overbore Systems. They're out in the, I believe it's Pennsylvania area. Tyler is a good dude that makes some good products. Had the opportunity to meet him a couple times at the HTA charity event. So I've been running this for a while. And on top of that, you can see here, this is the Gen 2 lead and steel LP1 red dot and a 3X flip up magnifier from EOTech. Again, you may need to fight beyond the structure, so that's why I do have a magnifier on here. Given that you should zero with a magnifier, but you don't need to be as anal about it as you do with your optic. You could remove this and stow it in a pocket or something. If you didn't want to run this all the time and wanted to save the weight, I just keep it flipped to the side, and it's worked pretty well for me. Actually, kind of loose here, should tighten that up to make sure it doesn't come apart. Now, as we move, speaking of the upper lower receiver, I just run a regular mil spec safety in all my guns because I am right-handed and I want to make sure my guns are all set up the exact same way. So for me, it's very simple manual of arms here, just, you know, on and off, no 45 degree, no ambidextrous controls. And the trigger here is the ALG Advanced Combat trigger. Swap that in, so it's just a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer break to that than what you would get with a normal mil-spec trigger. Yeah, so I like that. Has worked well for me. Moving forward, this is a BCM quad rail here. I picked a quad rail because I wanted something that was gonna be durable and reliable, both for what I mounted to it, because at the time I was building this out, I knew I wanted to get into night vision, and quad rails are about the sturdiest handguards you can get. Yes, that means they're heavier, but I needed and wanted durability. Moving forward, this is the hand stop from, I think it's the hand brake from Emissary Development. Probably my favorite one on the market right now. Just, you know, I like a C-clamp grip and this just fits my hand. The texturing is great. Really enjoy it. Above that, I do have a laser aiming module. So this is a Steiner A3. And I run night vision, so this does have an IR illuminator, IR laser, and Viz laser. And then the light here is the, it's an Arasaka body, so an 18650 body with the HRT Mark III head on here. I actually had this on a handheld, and because the HRT series is transferable, it does fit these threads, threw it on the Arasaka body with a Surefire tail cap, and then I have that run to a dual Surefire pressure pad here, so I can control both my light and my laser. And I like running those over the center, so while we don't often advocate in CQB for the switching of shoulders, it is available for me so that if I did want to switch hands, I still have access to both buttons with my I guess my dominant hand, should I switch shoulders. I have my GPR set up that way. I try to set up most of my guns with the pressure pad right there directly over the barrel. And speaking of the barrel, this is a Roscoe Bloodline 11.5. I actually only really upgraded from the FN barrel that I had because it wasn't long enough with the handguard once I got it. Did not realize the clearance wasn't quite right with the collar for my muzzle device. So I upgraded to the Roscoe barrel. The gassing is a little bit peculiar with the Roscoe stuff. Good barrels, very accurate barrels, but because of the gassing being a little bit weird, that's what led me to get the bootleg bolt carrier group so that it would run correctly. And now that that's done, it's fantastic. And I'll say the light here is pushed out on a Picatinny light bar from TRX Arms. It's a little bit longer than the Arasaka one, but while still being made by Arasaka. So it helps illuminate some of the suppressor shadow. And speaking of suppressor shadow, I have a Surefire RC2 here. My 11.5-inch gun, it is set up primarily for structure clearance work. Not that I do a ton of it, but trying to be more thoughtful and purpose-built with my solutions. This is how I have this particular blaster set up. That said, I do have a second SBR. Who can keep the damn acronyms straight? A separate SBR that was built out so A, my wife can train with me, but B, so that when I have friends who maybe don't have a gun built out or wanting to come out and train, learn some fundamentals and things like that, it's available to them as well. So let's take a look at that and we can kind of compare the form factor between the two. Okay, so this is a 10.5 SBR that I set up that's a little bit different, but a little bit similar from the gun that we were just looking at. So again, starting back here at the rear, the stock, this is a Faro Sling stir, which used to be my go-to sling before I was introduced to the Huberworks Spartan. Really, really good sling, still really recommend it. This is retained with just a Ranger band on here. Fantastic sling, again, using QDs. This is the Magpul, I wanna say it's the CTR stock. It's whatever their base model stock is. And then this is actually the Magpul cheek riser. I wanted a cheek riser, but I didn't want to pay a ton of money for it. So given that this is a sort of a spare parts build, if you will, right? So I took the Magpul cheek riser, which they say on the website really only works for AKs because of the amount of room you need here for your charging handle to fully clear. So I took that, I put it on a chop saw, cut it down, stuck it on here, and honestly, it works. It works pretty dang good for what it is. This one's set up, the length here is a little bit goofy because it's set up for my wife, but yeah, it works. So if you guys are looking for a cheap solution, this is the Magpul cheek riser. You can get it on Amazon for about 20 bucks. Take a saw to it, clean up the edges. It's gonna be open in the back here, but so is the regular defense one that's 3D printed. So really, really good solution for the $20. Again, inside here is regular just carbine buffer. Moving to the upper and lower receiver here. This is a Palmetto lower receiver with a mil-spec trigger and a mil-spec safety in it. It's actually an Anderson upper receiver because I built it. This was my first attempt into rifle building. I have shot this, hasn't blown up yet. And actually the tolerance and the fitment upper to lower is tighter than on almost any of my other guns, which is upsetting to say the least. The charging handle here is again, Radian Raptor. It is a knockoff. But given that this is a training gun only, something that was okay utilizing that until other options became available. Moving forward here, this is a Unity riser with a EOTech EXP-S2-0, and that does not have the night vision setting on it. I originally bought this for myself, and then my wife tried it, and she has broken eyes with a pretty rough astigmatism. So when she looked through a holographic sight for the first time, she really enjoyed this. So setting this up for her, we moved the EOTech over to her platform with the riser. I think that if you're building a gun up for some kind of structure clearance work where having a little bit taller optic can be helpful for picking up that sight picture more easily, I am a proponent of that. So this one is set up with a riser as well. Same reason we have the cheek riser back here. Keeps everything nice and in line together. Moving forward, this is a no name. This is an eBay quad rail that I got several years ago Threw it on here because it's just what I had. I do like quad rails for the durability, regardless of brand. Yes, it's a little bit heavier, but again, because I wanted something durable, I wanted something rugged that was gonna last, the quad rail is the way I went. Continuing to move forward here, we do have the emissary handbrake again, just again, consistency between platforms. We do have a rail panel here from Knight's Armament. I don't even know why or where I got this, but I slid it on here just because it's a little bit smoother, right? So it's not gonna chew up hands and gloves quite as much. On the top here, just a single Surefire pressure pad for the M640 dual fuel. So dual fuel meaning this will run on the CR123s or the 18650 rechargeable batteries. I mean, it works well for what it is. Got the 100 Concepts light cap here on this one. Keeping the controls over the top, again, as we mentioned before, we don't often advocate for switching shoulders, but in the event that you were holding security or something and you wanted to make that transition, you can still activate and hold that white light with your hand directly over the bore. The barrel is an FN 10.5-inch barrel, and the suppressor here is a Dead Air Sandman S with the Dead Air 3-prong flash hider. Again, I'm preferable to flash hiders, especially on 5.56 guns. So that's kind of consistent between setups. But that's pretty much it for the loaner gun. That's how I have these set up for my use cases, my purposes. And when I'm teaching folks, I like to have this stuff set up similarly. So when I demonstrate, it's very relatable and they can do things the same way that I do. So guys, like I said, you don't need to have a specific rifle built out for every occasion. You can use something like a GPR that's built for multiple applications and purposes. You can use that for structure clearance work. Something like this 13.9-inch, this ADM upper on a, what is a Stag lower. This can work very, very well for structure clearance. Is it less ideal than a 10.5 or an 11.5? Yeah, it is, but it can be done. That's why I have this set up similarly, a little bit different hand stop. Controls are the same for the light and the laser over the top. Mil spec trigger, mil spec safety, Radian Raptor charging handle, okay? So a lot of similarities there. It can be done, but if you're building a gun specifically for structure clearance, that's how I like to have mine set up. It is worth noting, you guys, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of different ways you can go about setting up your gun. You don't have to use a quad rail. You can go with something lighter like M-Lock or Shudder the Thought, Key Mod. There's a lot of people that really, really don't like the tall optic mounts. There's a lot of people that really like the tall optic mounts. That's where, people like the GBRS Hydra and the Lerna series because it brings the optic up even higher. So when you go to present that gun, it comes straight up to your eye without having you bring your head down. That's a whole separate conversation. But it really just depends on your use cases, your personal preferences, how you like to set the gun up. For me, this has worked really well. I've been using these for training for a couple years now, and I've been pretty successful. I haven't noticed it, noticing that it was glaringly deficient in the setup, anything I was missing or was holding me back, or a hindrance that I needed to address and change in how I was running the gun. So things like ambidextrous controls are nice to have, but they're not always necessary. If you're just thoughtful in how you have the gun set up, things like bumping shoulders, things like switching shoulders that we discussed can be managed by pressure pad positions. Yes, that means maybe you can't use a push pad or a push cap rather, on the back of the light at the end of the gun. You have to use a pressure pad on the rail. If that's a deal breaker, then you just need to understand how you run your gun and how you need to set yours up accordingly. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Not the only way to do it, just how I do it. Make sure you guys smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell because we're dropping this stuff all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.